1. Defend the perspective that the first step in the 5-step decision-making model is the most important. I think the first step, identifying the problem, is the most important part of the decision-making model, because if you don't understand the real problem, every decision after that can be wrong. It's like using the GPS with the wrong destination. Even if you take all the right turns, you're still going to end up in the wrong place. I've noticed this at work. Sometimes customers are upset, and at first it seems like they're just angry, but they're just talking to them. You realize the real issue is that didn't understand the product or weren't given the right information. If I reacted without figuring out the problem, I probably wouldn't solve anything. The same thing happens in school. I've had the assignment where I almost answered the wrong question because I misunderstood the instruction. Taking an extra minute to identify exactly what the professor wanted saved me from wasting a lot of time. Business also have to identify problems correctly. Businesses also have to identify problems correctly. If sales are dropping, a company if sales are dropping, a company might think they need more advertising, but maybe the real issue is poor customer service or an outdated product. Spending money on marketing won't fix those deeper problems. I also think identifying the problems require critical thinking, because you have to ask questions instead of making assumptions. Good leaders don't rush into solutions, they rather get information first. Overall, I believe every step in the decision-making process depends on getting the first step right. Once you clearly understand the process, it becomes more easier to evaluate options and make a smart decision. Prompt 2. In what situation would satisfaction be appropriate? List at least 3 occupations or industries where satisfying would not be appropriate. Satisfaction means choosing a solution that is good enough instead of searching for the absolute best option. I think this works well in situations where time is limited or the decision isn't extremely important. For example, in retail, employees make dozens of decisions every day. If someone asks where an item is, you don't spend 20 minutes finding the perfect answer. You provide the best information you have and keep helping the customers. Another example is restaurant management. During a busy dinner rush, managers consistently solve small problems. They may not have time to spend have time to they may not have time to find the perfect staffing solution, so they make the best decision they can with the employee who are available. Customer service is another area where satisfying makes sense. Representatives also often need to solve problems quickly while keeping customers satisfied. Waiting for the perfect solution could make the customer even more frustrated. However, there are careers where satisfying is not appropriate. The first healthcare doctor and surgeons can't settle for good enough for diagnosing illness or performing surgery because people's lives are at stake. Second is aviation. Pilots and aircraft mechanics have to follow strict procedures because one small mistake can lead to a serious accident. Third is structural engineering or construction design. Engineers designing bridges or buildings must make precise decisions because public safety depends on their work. I will also include law enforcement, investigation, and pharmaceutical research because accuracy matters much more than speed. Personally, I think the key is understanding the level of risk. If a person If a poor decision only causes a small inconvenience, satisfying can save time, but if a decision could affect someone's health, safety, or life, then decision makers need to gather as much information as possible before acting. Prompt 3. Discuss the relationship between creativity and innovation. I think creativity and innovation are connected, but they're not exactly the same thing. Creativity is coming up with original ideas, while innovation is taking those ideas and actually turning them into something useful. I don't think innovation happens very often without creativity. Even if you're improving an existing product, someone still has to think directly about how to make it better. On the other hand, I definitely think people can be creative without innovating. For example, someone might have great business ideas, invent products in their notebook, or think of ways to improve their workplace. But if those ideas are never put into action, they may remain creative ideas instead of innovations. I've experienced this in school. Sometimes I'll think of a better way to organize a project or divide work among classmates. That's creativity, but unless the group project uses the idea, it never becomes innovation. Businesses rely on both. Companies need creative employees who generate ideas, but they also need leaders who are willing to invest resources and make those ideas happen. Technology companies are a good example. They consistently improve products by listening to customers and creating new features. Those improvements begin with high creativity but become innovation when customers can actually use them. I also think organizations should encourage employees to share ideas without worrying about criticism, because that's often where innovation begins. In my opinion, creativity starts the process, but innovation creates the real impact, because that's when ideas solve problems and improve people's lives. Prompt 4. When would you hire someone with creative potential versus someone that practice creativity? If I was hiring someone, I think the decision would depend on organization situations. I would choose someone with creativity potential if the company is growing, has time to train employees, and wants fresh ideas. Sometimes people have amazing natural ability, but just haven't had many opportunities to develop it yet. For example, if I started my own business, one day I'd probably hire people who are eager to learn, motivated, willing to think differently. Skills can be taught, but curiosity and a positive attitude are harder to teach. I've seen situations where someone had very little experience but learned quickly. They were motivated and open to feedback. On the other hand, I would chosen someone with practice creativity if the organization needed results immediately. If a company is facing tough competition, strict deadlines, or major charges, they may not have time to train someone from scratch. For example, an advertising agency works on a major campaign, or a product development team launching a new product might need someone who already has experience generating creative solutions under pressure. I also think leadership positions require practice creativity, because experienced employees know how to work with teams, communicate ideas and concepts to real projects. Overall, I don't think candidates is always better. It depends on the organization's goals, timeline, and resources. If there is time to develop, creative potential can become a huge long-term investment. But if immediate performance is the priority, Someone with a proven creativity experience may be stronger choice. But also, I can tell you more things about it. I have some ideas. My main idea, the first step, going back to what I was saying at work, sometimes a customer may be frustrated and immediately complain about something. The first reaction might be to assume they just want a refund or they are upset, but they are listening and things. Also, my opinion is that back to part one, my opinion is that the first step, identifying my problem, is the most important step because every decision that comes after depends on how well you understand the situation. A lot of people think decision making is mainly about choosing an answer, but I believe the hardest part is making sure you're solving the problem right. Expanding. People often react emotionally instead of analyzing the situation, or they may focus on they may focus on what they see on the surface instead of what is actually causing the issue. Good decision makers separate symptoms from the actual problem. I'm gonna explain why assumptions are dangerous. Assumptions can lead to wasted money. They can create more problems. It can damage trust between leaders and employees also, or they might even damage things with the employee. An example, at work, if a customer complains, the easiest thing is to assume they are being difficult, but listening first can reveal that there is a legitimate reason for their frustration. Strong leaders are usually people who make the best decisions. They are people who make the most informed decisions. Example, leaders ask questions. Leaders listen to different perspectives. Leaders collect facts before acting. As someone who wants to eventually own a business, I think this step will be extremely important because business owners make decisions every day. If I misunderstand a problem, I could waste. If I misunderstand a problem, I could waste money, lose customers, or make choices that hurt the company, and I don't want to do that. For an example, you can even compare basketball to this. If a team is losing a game, the coach has to identify the real problem. Is it defense, communication, selection, conditioning? If the coach focuses on the wrong issue, the team will be struggling. The first step is like building a foundation. If the foundation is weak, everything built on it will eventually have problems. Going back to prompt 2, when it's satisfactory and appropriate. It does not mean you're being lazy or making careless decisions. It means you're recognizing that the perfect solution is not realistic, and a good solution that solves the problem quickly is the best option. Example, why businesses use satisfied businesses deal with deadlines, competition, limited budgets, changing customer needs. More examples, employees have to have small decisions throughout the day. They need to balance helping the customer and everyone else around them. If a customer asks for a product recommendation, an employee may recommend the best option they know instead of searching every possible product. But I'm gonna put that on a conclusion. Organizations have to balance current needs what future goals. Sometimes they need someone who can make an immediate impact, and sometimes they need someone they can develop into a future leader.